Hello, good morning. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the 10 a.m. Technique Live at the epic 90s birthday celebration online crop. And if you're joining me live, be sure to log into YouTube before trying to comment on the live video. And once you've logged into YouTube with your Gmail account, then you'll be able to comment live and you can say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can just say replay. Good morning. It's a good morning, and we're beginning our 4-day crop this morning. We are going to be looking at the featured collection from Close to My Heart, which for the month of January is called Let's Party. And you can definitely tell where I got the idea for the theme from, the 90s part. I think that was Robin who thought we should do a 90s themed party. And so we're going to be looking at the Let's Party collection, some pattern paper, and also this particular stamp set, which is the scrapbooking stamp set for Let's Party. Lots of fun colors in this collection, but we're doing something a little different today. Hey, Heather, and Allison is here. Good morning, good morning. Instead of doing a card or a layout, we're going to do something that is party related. And it's one of those things that if you've ever planned, especially a kid's party, one of the first things they will ask you is, what little gift are we giving my friends who come to my party? Right? They want to know about the party favors, the loot bag. What are we giving my friends? And I kind of like that. I like that, um, when my kids were little, when they invited friends to a party, they wanted to be generous and give something to their friends. And so I think that's a really good attitude to have. And so today we're going to make something that you could use as a party favor holder or a loot bag, or even just as a nice little gift box. And so that's what we're going to work on today. And this idea was presented on the maker page by a fellow close to my heart maker, Melissa Mills Johnson. And so I want to thank her for sharing this lovely idea. We're going to start out with a piece of just plain white daisy cardstock. And sometimes if you have to make a whole lot of something, it's easier to start with a white base. White pretty much goes with everything. Plus, if you're doing a lot of creasing and folding, you don't have to worry about the white core showing through because it's white already to begin with. And it saves you a little bit in the cha-ching because the white cardstock is the most economical cardstock. Now, one good thing is that you can get two of these out of one 12 by 12. These are 8.5 by 6-inch pieces that we're starting out. Just one of them, 8.5 by 6. And let me just scroll up so I can see my video. I can't see comments and video at the same time. Yes, we are in the frame. That is awesome. So who doesn't like getting a nice little loot bag when they go to a party? I don't know anybody. Nice little loot bag, especially if it contains some chocolate. Can never go wrong with that. So we've got 8.5 by 6, and we're going to line it up here on our Versamat or in a scoreboard. We're going to do some scoring. So we're just going to line it up here. I'm using my ruler and my bone folder to help me with the scoring. And along this 8.5-inch side, we're going to score it in two places. We're going to score it at 4 inches. So let's line it up here. We're going to score right across at 4 inches. And then we're going to move all the way to the end, and we're going to score at 8, which is going to leave us this little 1/2-inch flap on the end. So we've scored at 4 inches and 8 inches along this 8.5-inch side. Then we're going to turn it 90 degrees. So now we're working along the 6-inch side. And I just want to make sure, because I didn't check how far down I can go. Yep, that's all still in the frame. Hey, Mom, nice to see you're watching. So now we're going along this 6-inch side, and we're going to score it at 1 inch. So right there, 1 inch. And then we're going to scoot across here, and we're going to score it at 5 inches, which gives us an inch on either side. Okay. Now, we're not going to put our ruler too far away because we're going to need it again. In fact, we're going to need it right away. We're now going to turn it back to the 8.5-inch side. Line it back up. So now across here at the top, we have a score line that goes from side to side, 1 inch down from the top. We've also got our 4-inch score line and our 8-inch score line, leaving that little 1/2-inch bit on the end. So what we want to do is take our scoring tools, whatever you were using, and along this 8.5-inch side, just at this top part, between the edge and the 1-inch score line, we're going to score it at 2 inches. So we're coming over here to 2 inches, and we're only scoring from the top down to that 1-inch score line. So just a short little score line at 2 inches. Then we're going to scoot across, and we're going to go to 6 inches. We're going to line it up, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just scoring from that top of the paper to that 1-inch score line, just like that. Just a short little score. Okay, now I'm going to move my ruler for a second, but we're bringing it back in. Don't worry. I'm going to need my scissors now for the next part. What we want to do is we want to trim from the top down to that 1-inch score line on all of these scores. So there's 4 of them. The 2, 4, 6, and 8. So I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to snip right on that score line just to where it intersects with that horizontal score line. There's my 4-inch one, the 6-inch one, and the last one. Okay, so now if we turn it back around, we should have 5 little flaps. A 2-inch flap, a 2-inch flap, a 2-inch flap, a 2-inch flap, and a 1/2-inch flap. So there should be 5 little flaps all the way across the top. Now what we want to do is we want to cut off a little bit here. We need to remove, let me grab my pencil. We need to remove this little corner flap here above where that score line is, and this little 1/2-inch flap down here at the bottom. So we're going to remove those, which is going to leave us a 1/2-inch tab in the center. But we want to miter that so that it folds nicely. And mitering just means we're going to trim it on a bit of an angle. So we're not going to cut straight on the score line. We're going to angle it in a bit. And I know you guys are good with that. So we're going to angle it in right to that intersection, and then we're going to snip off that 1/2-inch tab, just like that. Then we're going to come to this end. We're going to go on an angle, miter that, and that part was already trimmed for us. So now we're left with a shape that looks like this. We've got our 4 flaps now at the top that are all 2 inches each. We've got 2 big panels. We've got a 1/2-inch flap, and then we've got these 2 long rectangles. What we want to do now is we want to do a little bit of measuring, and we're going to do a little bit of scoring. So I'm going to line it up here on my mat like that. And actually, we don't need to do measuring. We just need to pay attention. And I think I'm going to make it a little bit easier by turning my paper around. Okay, so now I've flipped it upside down. I've got my 4 flaps here at the bottom, because that's actually going to be the bottom of our treat box. Okay, what we want to do is where these two flaps intersect. This is why I was thinking we needed to measure, but we don't need to measure because we've already got sort of a mark there because we've got the intersection between the flaps. So from this center point of this half of the piece of paper, where these two flaps are cut apart, from that horizontal score line up to this top left corner, we're going to create a diagonal score line. Okay, so we're going to go from this top corner where this 1 inch score line is, all the way down to the separation between these two flaps. We've created a diagonal line. Now we're going to go from this same point up to where these two score lines intersect in the center and 1 inch down from the top. So I find the easiest thing is to turn, and I'm going to put my scoring tool right in that intersection, and then I can just pivot my ruler till it lines up right where those two flaps are cut apart, and score. Okay, so now I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the light. We've created a V with score lines in this panel. We're going to do the same thing on this side. So what we need to do is find the intersection between those two score lines right there. And then we're going to line our ruler up with the split in between these two flaps, which is in the center of this 4 inch panel, and create a diagonal line. And now we're going to go from the split back up to this score line here, right at the edge. Okay, so we've created, to me it almost looks like, you know, if it was curved around like this and you had thread running like that, it would look like the side of a drum, right? So we've got our center crease, our little 1/2 inch, we've got our 1 inch creases top and bottom, we've got our 4 2-inch flaps, and then in between these 2-inch flaps and this top part, we've created 2 diagonal score lines, and on this panel between these 2 flaps, we've created 2 diagonal score lines as well. Okay, now we need to crease on all of our score lines. So all we got to do, remember, if we scored on this side, we created a dip. So there's a bump on this side, and we always fold with the bump side to the inside. So it really doesn't matter in what order you do this. You're just going to want to crease on all the score lines. There's our center one. And you can obviously take your time and make sure that everything lines up. Let's do these bottom ones. I'm going to kind of fold them all and then give them a good crease with the bone folder. There we go. And then open them back up. We're going to fold this little tab. All the folding. We've already folded the center. So now all that's left are our diagonal lines. So again, we're just going to fold. Now you're going to have to be a little bit careful about the inside ones. I'll show you why. See this? Obviously, this will fold nicely because there's tabs here. This one, there's no crease line that keeps going. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to fold it like that and then just kind of leave that part uncreased. Okay, you're just going to crease up to that. This top part, you don't want to put weird creases in if you can avoid it. Same with this one. This one's going to be a little bit weirder. You can even do it up in the air if that helps to get you started. But don't crease past this top 1 inch crease line because there's no score line there. You don't want to. And then the last one is easy because it just folds right over. Okay, so now we've got all of our score lines, and you can see how it's all going to start curving around to create something. But before we put it all together, this is the easiest time to do some of our decorating. So to do our decorating on here, we need 2 pieces of 3 3/4 inch square pattern paper, and I chose this fun pattern from the Let's Party collection. It's got yay repeated all over it, kind of in wavy lines. It's a nice, fun and festive type of pattern. So I'm going to scooch that out of the way, and I'm going to bring in my little photo trimmer for this. You can use any kind of trimmer you want. I've just got my little photo trimmer. But what I want to do is I want to mark the bottom. So if you have a pattern that's an all over pattern, it doesn't really matter where the bottom is, but you're going to mark one of your sides and you're going to call that the bottom. So this is 3 3/4 inches wide. We want to mark it in half, which would be 1 7/8. And 7/8 is right between 1 3/4 and 2 inches. So you're going to just mark it right in between there on both of these. So we're going to line this one up, and we're going to mark it at 1 3/4, just in the center at the bottom. And then what we need to do is we need to do some trimming, some funky trimming. We're going to trim from that center bottom mark to the top left corner and create a little triangle piece that will come off. And then we're going to trim from that same point right in the center at the bottom to the top right corner, and that will create a second and a third triangle. So let's do that. We're going to go from the top left corner to the bottom center mark, and it kind of takes a little bit of jiggle to get it in the right spot. And when you've done it, you want to put them off to the side so that they don't get kind of messed up. So we've done the left side. Now we're going to do the right side. So we're lining up with this bottom center mark and the top right corner, like that. And that gives us, oops, crinkled it. That gives us that, and also this center one. Now we need to repeat that. We've marked our center at the bottom at 1 3/4, or sorry, 1 7/8, pardon me, 1 7/8. I'm going to trim. And you could totally mix this up. If you didn't want the same pattern everywhere, you wanted to get a little more pizzazzy, you could cut 2 different patterns and then just mix and match. So if I had 2 different patterns, then on the front of my box, I could have one pattern on either side and one in the middle. And then on the back side, it could be the opposite. You could have the middle pattern on the outside and the outside pattern on the middle. So different things you can do. You can even do it with just plain cardstock. You could use wrapping paper, whatever you want. We're using pattern paper today. So now we bring this in, and you can immediately see that we're going to then put these panels on these 2 collections of triangles. I'm going to use liquid glue for this because that will just make life easier. So all we're going to do is add some glue to the triangle. I find triangles are much easier with liquid glue because they got all those pointy little corners. And we're just going to center it in each of the cardstock sections that match. Easy peasy. And when you're trimming and setting them aside, it's nice to set them in the group so you don't have to kind of try and do the puzzle work later to figure out which piece goes where. And there we go. And then the last one for the front side or the back side, whichever side you feel like it should be when you're done. Now I find that this last piece does not have as much generous edge left around it, but just center it in the space that's there. It does fit, it just doesn't have as much white space around. So don't worry about it. Just get her on there. Oops. It's the only problem about liquid glue is it does slide. And so this is really fun if you're trying to come up with, say, especially for a kids' theme party. You know, kids sometimes pick the weirdest themes for a birthday party, and you cannot go to a store and find things that match the weird randomness that kids come up with. And so, you know, even if you want to find some photos online or something, print them out on your printer and use that as your pattern paper so that it's thematic. You can totally do all sorts of fun stuff like that. All right, so now we've decorated all of our panels. We need to add some adhesive onto this little 1/2 inch tab. And I'm going to put 2 strips here. You could use red tape. I'm just using this, but I want to make sure it's all good and stuck down. So I'm going to use 2 strips, make sure it's all covered. You could use liquid glue too, if you're the patient sort of person. I am not. Not when it comes to crafting. I want to make it now. Okay. And then all we're going to do is we're going to flip it over and we're going to tuck this tab in so that the sticky side is up, and then fold on that center crease. Just fold it all the way closed. That's the easiest way to get that tab adhered, and then make sure it's got good adhesion. And then if you give this a little squash, see what happens? You give it a little squash from side to side, and this bottom pops open. Yes, this is the bottom. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a square bottom. So we're going to tuck 2 flaps in, and then we're going to close with 2 more flaps on top. And it is a little bit warpy, right? It's not exactly flat, and that's okay. That's just the nature of how it's folding. So what we want to do is we want to put some adhesive on 2 opposite flaps. It doesn't really matter which ones. I find the easiest is to lay it down, fold 1 flap out of the way, and then put a couple strips of adhesive on this flap, like that. And then on this side, we want to do the opposite. So it's this one we want to do. So we can fold that one back and add adhesive to it. It's always easier to do things when they're flat than to try and add it, holding everything up in the air. That's why we do the decorating first, too. Okay, so we've got our adhesive on there. The other thing that we want to do is we want to kind of round these corners. Now, if you're a smart person who can figure out how to use a corner rounder, you can go ahead and do that. I'm just going to do it manually. Just give those a little bit of shape. We could also add some glitter on there. We could, like glitter paper or shimmer trim. We could add a piece of pattern paper up there if we wanted. So this is just 1 inch by 4 inches. So if you cut a 3/4 inch by 3 3/4 and rounded 2 of the corners, you could put a piece of pattern paper on there. I'm not doing it. I'm leaving mine plain. But I also want to add on a little bit of a handle. And so I have taken my small circle shaker window thin cuts, and it's got this lovely stitched circle frame that goes on the outside of your shakers. And I have cut 2 of those, and I'm going to stick them on here for a little handle. So I only need to apply glue. I'm going to flip it over to the back side so that I can see how much glue I need to add on here. I'm just going to add my glue in the spot where it's going to be touching the paper. And then I'm going to stick it on, hopefully close to the center. Fingers crossed. And then if we flip this over, we can do the same thing. We can have the back side of the circle up, and it can lay right on top of the other one because we want them to line up. Add some glue like that. And flip this over. Now you don't have to do this step. This is just, you know, if you want to make it look a little more. If you were maybe doing this for a guy's party, and this pattern would look really great for a guy's party, you might want to forgo the handle because it makes it look a little bit like a purse type of thing. Now this liquid glue needs a moment to dry before we mangle it around too much, or it'll all try to pop off. So let me just give that a second. While we're waiting for that, maybe let's work on our tag. We're going to attach a little tag to this so we could either personalize it or just for a little bit extra decoration. So I have my all-purpose tags. These were just recently in the Boxing Week sale, but I believe they're still available. And I decided to use this diamond one because I thought the pattern the shape looked kind of nice with all the triangle-y bits. So I've used some candy apple cardstock to trim out that diamond stitched edge little tag. And then I want to bring in my Let's Party Scrapbooking Stamp and thin cuts. Hey, Deborah, nice to see you're watching. And good morning, Ina. Yes, Deborah, that birthday paper is awesome. And I've got the little party hat stamp that I've pulled out of that just for a cute little decoration. And I decided I was going to stamp it up using Bluebird and Jade. So we're going to stamp our Bluebird party hat first. I've just got a little piece of white daisy here. And you can purchase this stamp set with thin cuts. I didn't because, well, I was going to say I didn't. I did because it came in my my bundle when the makers were doing their catalog launch. So I do have the thin cuts. I suppose I could use the thin cuts. I didn't even think about that. When I made one earlier, I just cut them out by hand. And it's probably quicker. So maybe I'll just cut it out by hand. But there are thin cuts, and I do have them. How silly is that? I have the thin cuts, and I'm still going to cut it by hand. And I'm even washing my stamp. Alrighty, let's give these a little trim. I figure by the time I take the time to get out the washi tape and get out the thing and get out all the die, I might as well just trim it by hand. So I'm just going to go around just like it would be trimmed if it was a die cut. All the way around. There's our little Jade, which is one of the coordinating colors. And our little Bluebird party hat. It doesn't matter if your circle is a little jaggedy because it's a floofy on top of the party hat. A nice little pom-pom little thing happening there. So let's go ahead and we'll stick down our Jade party hat. Like so. We can even go a little outside the box with that one. And then let's also grab some thin foam tape. And we'll pop up this little guy because, it's our tag. We can pop it up if we want to. Just like that. Again, he can overlap the edge a little bit. Okay, so now that we've given our little circles a little bit of time to dry, we've got our 4 tabs here at the bottom. So I've picked it up. I've given it a little squeeze to make them pop open. We're going to fold in the first 2 that have no adhesive on them and just kind of make sure everything lines up. And then we'll take these 2 here that have the adhesive on them and remove all the backings. Switch hands. Switch hands again. My hands aren't cooperating that great today. There we go. Okay, so we folded in our 2 tabs that don't have adhesive, making sure they line up nicely so it gets a nice square shape. And then we're going to fold in these 2 tabs that have adhesive, just like that, trying to make sure everything lines up. Now it's going to be hard to push on this, so just do as much gently as you can. It's a little bit concave. And then we're going to put it against our table, squeeze the top a little bit, and that will open up our little loop bag. And then we can put something down in there to just give some more pressure on those and make sure they're good and stuck down. And they look good from here, and they look good from here. So there we go. And then, of course, we need to put some loot in here. And I was recently visiting down in Campbellford at my 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see how many will fit. I would say 9 Oh, unless I give them a little shake. Oh, look at that. 10 nice, lovely, what are these? Double chocolate meltaways from the world's finest chocolate factory, which happens to be about a block away from my parents' house. If you ever come to one of my mom's retreats, it's a fun place to visit. So it holds a good amount of treats in there. It would hold a nice little small gift. But then we also have our little tag here. And let me just grab, I don't have any ribbon or anything. Ribbon would probably be the best for this, but I've got some sapphire thread that's now a retired item. And we'll just pull some off of here and then run our scissors along it to get rid of the cardboard crinkles, if we can. Somewhat. The end is grabbing onto everything. Ooh, it's so staticky. All right, let's give ourselves a snip. And let's double this up. I could probably even triple it up too. But alrighty, let's put this through the hole here. Now it's up to you if you want people to be able to leave the tag on to enjoy the treats, or whether you want them to take the tag off. I'm going to leave it so that I can open and close it. So I'm only going to attach my thread around one half of the handle. But if you want it to be sealed shut, then you could attach it around both sides of the handle. I'm going to give it a little knot, a little bow. I'm going to try. Oh my goodness, my fingers. Okay, let's try this. We can lay it down. I've got one end of it just uncooperative. You guys know how to tie bows. I don't need to show you how to tie a bow. But I might not even tie a bow. I might just tie a knot. And then leave these all sprinky around. Like that. Lots of sprinkies. Alrighty, so there we go. We've got our lovely tag on our treat box that holds a good amount of treats. As I say, you could even decorate that top part. I'm just leaving it plain so it kind of blends in with the handle. And then, of course, I've done it so that we can still open it up and sneak some treats whenever we want it. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that fun little square-bottomed, triangle-y gift / treat / loot / party favor box come together. And if you're inspired to make one of your own, please take a photo of it and post it in the comments when I post the pictures of this completed project on the event page. Alrighty, we will see you again soon. Don't forget we have Chat and Craft coming up later on, and I will be posting the Zoom link for that when it happens. All right, we'll see you then. Toodaloo. Bye.